Thanks so much for staying with us. Now it's time for a discussion segment because in Parliament, lawmakers were called back from their parliamentary recess on Tuesday to amend Appropriations Act 2024 for the budget to exclude the amounts related to statutory expenditure that were inadvertently included in the act. Now, the Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, he was not present, so Education Minister Favour Williams, who is no stranger to finances, she guided that process, and Minister Williams explained that the amendments are necessary as the Constitution stipulates statutory expenditures are not to be voted on by the House of Representatives. But the opposition People's National Party is calling the sequence a blunder and they want someone to take responsibility. Of course, we're going to discuss this right now with our youngest bright minds, Cleveland Tomlinson, the opposition junior spokesperson on finance, as well as economist Sondre Roden, no stranger to CVM News, both of them. We are also seeing here, Cleveland, are you hearing us?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Sondre, that's you?
Yes, that's me. I'm hearing clearly.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining. First, Cleveland, you, because I like to pick on you. Why is this blunder? Why is this rather a blunder and not a simple error?
Because of the gravity of the error, Nika, it's quite unprecedented that after 2 weeks, having passed the Appropriations Act, that Parliament would have been called back in a kind of emergency to consider an amendment arising from a foul of an error. If we recall, the minister would have presented it with much fanfare, a lot of dramatic theatrics, and it was incumbent on him to have thorough appreciation of all that contained in the budget. And he should have recognized at the time that the budget included statutory expenditures that, according to the Constitution, should not be voted on by Parliament. So he should have had that kind of appreciation. So it's really just a lack of appreciation on his part. And any recommendation I would make in that regard is that he should let the dramatics, so the whole issue of red card, etc., almost like it was a kind of cussing out that he came to Parliament with. So it's really not a good look that he did not have the appreciation that budget include statutory expenditures that per the Constitution should not have been included. And there are also questions about the implications at this. So we know that these entities are not able to expend any funds until the amendments are passed in the House and then passed by the Senate, yes. And then the processes continue before they're able to expend funds. And they have obligations that they must now. So really the People's National Party is saying that this is an unprecedented fall and someone should take responsibility. And certainly we believe that the of that minister, the one who presented the budget, should have had that appreciation.
But Sondre, can you agree with this? Is this something we really should be concerned about real quickly? Because with you, it's always a break coming up.
There can be errors, and we've seen over the past, over the parliamentary life cycle where there have been errors and amendments. That's the nature of legislation, the nature of politics, and the nature of how legislation is passed. Yes, they should have gotten it right. Yes, they should have ensured that everything's done to the T's are crossed, I's are dotted. I don't know if it is more than just a human error, because that's something we also have to take into consideration as well. Noting Cleveland's comment, we have to take that into consideration. And it is my hope as well that there are no implications from this, because it is, as stated, it is in the law. Even though I saw a news report that didn't specifically state the exact part of the Constitution, yes. But constitutionally it should...
Section 163 of the Constitution, that's where it says.
Well, I'm seeing...
We will pick up this discussion in just a moment because we're up on a break. Welcome back to CVM News at Noon. It's our discussion segment. We're joined by Cleveland Tomlinson from the PNP Shadow Cabinet, and we also have Sondre Roden. He is an economist, and they're discussing some foul play it would appear, some say it's faux with the latest budget. Now, we're continuing that discussion because, Sondre, before we went to the break, you were finishing up your point. But I want to just raise something here about a statement issued by the PNP-YO recently, and that was to say, the part I'm going to extract, it says, the PNP-YO is concerned that even in the face of such an error, the Minister of Finance was absent from Parliament on Tuesday and was not represented by his junior minister, who may have been able to provide answers, but was instead represented by the Minister of Education, who did not seem, and this is direct quote, to know the answer to anything. Why does this matter? First you, Sondre, and then we go back to Cleveland.
Right, I was clearing up really quickly for your viewers that it's actually section 116, part 3 in the Constitution. There's no section 163, as would have been reported by particular entities. But what I will say is that based on my understanding, I'm not sure if it's accurate, but I did see something come out about the minister not being on the island or not being able to represent on that particular day. The question of whether or not his junior minister should have represented him, it is a fair question to ask, but the further question then is why the government took that route, and I'm not sure if it was necessarily important for a particular line minister, for example, to represent. Noting that Minister Williams has her background in finance, I'm not sure if it's a matter of them saying a line minister had to present it, but it is a fair question to ask why.
If I may interject, Sondre, the Minister of Education currently was almost seconded, which never really happened, but she was taken from finance, where she was his deputy, and placed in education, where it was preferred because apparently there were some handlings and mishandlings around money at the time. So would it be too far-fetched that she, coming from a finance background, made the presentation anyway? I'm just throwing that in there.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that the question that's asked now, that, you know, the junior minister didn't present on behalf of the minister, it's a fair question because it is the junior minister. You know, you're going to ask that. Anybody's going to ask. Absolutely. But then I was just creating the context to say that Minister Williams does have a finance background, and as you said, she once served in the Ministry of Finance as well, which says that she does have some understanding. But you can understand why the questions are asked, because then the impression that we now got was that there wasn't enough clarity around the issue, barring the statement that it wouldn't really affect anything. And for some people, even if I can understand it because I may have read up and saw that, yes, this is the information, if you're a regular citizen watching Parliament, you want to have a clear understanding. And that is that's the issue I'll take with it, because it can't be the case where you're now saying there's an amendment to the budget and, you know, it's not a regular thing to get an amendment to, you know, our Appropriations Act, which says that there are questions you want to be answered. If we don't get adequate answers, then of course there are going to be further questions, because then people are going to say, well, if she had a background, why could she not have given us all the answers? And then that's why people are going to say, why not the junior minister, which may have better answers? So I can see where the question is coming from.
Well, Cleveland, if you could give me a 2 cents real quickly on that before we take this final break.
Sure. I have not been informed as to why Minister Clark was absent from Parliament. If what Sondre opined or indicated that he was off the island, I think that is a reasonable excuse. If he was on the island, what I will say is that if he was in another engagement, the importance of that engagement that he was involved in must at least be proportionate or even greater than the importance of being present in the Parliament at the time to pilot the amendment. So I'm not going to be here casting assertions, because I don't know why he was absent. But if he was overseas, I think that's a reasonable explanation. But if he was in the island, then and he was not at an engagement that commanded an importance greater than being in the Parliament to pilot this amendment, then I would find that to be very concerning. I think that there are also there's also a degree of legitimacy that surrounds the question as to why the junior minister did not pilot the bill. I'm not sure if he was in Parliament at the time, or if he had an engagement, or if he was with the minister. That information I don't have on me at the moment. But I would expect that if he was in Parliament, he should have been the one to pilot the bill, the amendment rather, and it certainly would indicate whether or not there's confidence in his capacity, or if he has full appreciation of the issues enough that the minister would ask him to pilot the amendment. Those questions are legitimate.
All right, well, we have to end it there, but thank you so much, gentlemen. That's Cleveland Tomlinson, Junior Spokesman on Finance, and economist Sondre Roden.